Just imagine this for a second. What if, right now, at this exact moment, all 8 billion people on Earth suddenly started peeing at the same time? Today, we're going to experience this disaster step by step. First, we need to figure out just how much liquid we're talking about. The average person urinates about 400 milliliters in one trip. Now multiply that by 8 billion people. That's roughly 3.2 billion liters of urine. That's the equivalent of over 1,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools released into the environment. Not over the course of a day, but within just a few minutes. But to really understand the scale of this disaster, let's make the scenario even crazier. Imagine every single person on Earth is standing shoulder to shoulder in one enormous open field. Then, after a countdown, everyone starts at the exact same time. 3, 2, 1. At first, all you hear is the sound of millions of drops hitting the ground. For the first few seconds, nothing seems unusual. You think to yourself, wait, that's it? But less than a minute later, the ground simply can't absorb that much liquid anymore. A few minutes pass, and you look down at your feet. It's no longer just wet ground. A yellow layer has formed beneath you, and it's getting deeper every second. The people standing in the middle of the crowd are the first to realize something is wrong. Walking is becoming harder. Every step sinks into the liquid, and with billions of people still shifting around, the level just keeps rising. Maybe you're thinking, okay, it'll probably only reach my ankles. Wrong. When the equivalent of 1,000 Olympic swimming pools is dumped into one area, you're no longer standing in a puddle. You're slowly finding yourself trapped in the middle of a massive lake of urine. And the worst part hasn't even started yet, because now, billions of people are all trying to escape at the exact same time. At first, someone screams, "Run!" And that single word is enough to send nearly 8 billion people rushing in the same direction. The problem is, a crowd that size has nowhere to escape. People slam into each other, lose their footing, and start slipping on the ground. Anyone who falls disappears beneath hundreds of others within seconds. But just how big would this lake actually become? If those 3.2 million cubic meters of urine spread across an area of about 10 square kilometers, it would reach an average depth of roughly 30 centimeters, or about 1 foot. That's just below your knees. But the ground isn't perfectly flat. Any dip or low spot would quickly fill up, and in some places, the liquid could rise to your waist, or even higher. Now picture yourself standing in one of those low areas, surrounded by waves of yellow liquid, while millions of people struggle to push past you. You might be thinking, I'll just swim. But this isn't water. Urine is about 95% water, but the rest is made up of urea, salts, ammonia, uric acid, and dozens of waste compounds. Within minutes, your eyes begin to burn, your throat feels raw, and every breath becomes harder than the last. Every wave moving through the crowd stirs the air, spreading the smell even farther. But the scariest part is that this enormous amount of liquid doesn't just disappear. Slowly, the lake begins flowing downhill like a flood. Except it's not rainwater. It's billions of liters of urine. Anything in its path gets swallowed by the moving current. But what happens a few hours later is even worse than the lake itself. Because now, this massive wave of liquid is starting to seep into the soil and into the world's water supply. You might be thinking, wouldn't that actually help plants? Urine contains nitrogen, right? And that's true, but only in small amounts. We're not talking about a few gallons here. We're talking about 3.2 billion liters. That enormous amount of urea and nitrogen completely throws the soil out of balance. Instead of helping plants grow, it starts burning their roots. Within days, the grass begins turning brown, nearby trees start dying, but the damage doesn't stop with the soil. Part of this massive volume eventually reaches rivers, lakes, and underground aquifers. At first, the water just looks greener than usual, but a few days later, those same algae begin consuming the oxygen in the water. Fish, turtles, and countless other aquatic animals start dying one by one. Now imagine you're still standing near the center of it all. The air has become almost impossible to breathe. The smell of ammonia is so strong that people can detect it from miles away. Millions of flies and insects swarm toward the massive amount of waste, while bacteria multiply at an unbelievable rate. With every passing hour, the risk of contamination and disease outbreaks keeps growing. You might think everything would be over after a few days, but that's not even the worst part. The biggest consequences wouldn't show up that day, or even the following week, and an ecosystem that may have taken thousands of years to develop was severely damaged in just a few minutes. What's fascinating is that this disaster didn't begin with a bomb. It all started with something so ordinary that every human does it every single day. And here's the craziest part. This scenario only involved humans. Now imagine if the exact same thing happened with every animal on Earth at the same moment. Billions of wild and domestic animals, from elephants and cows to horses, dogs, and millions of other species, all adding to that volume simultaneously. At that point, we'd probably be looking at one of the largest environmental disasters in the history of our planet. Maybe the reason life on Earth seems so stable isn't because our everyday actions don't matter. It's because 8 billion people never make the same choice at the same moment.